It's definitely my pleasure now to introduce Chris here. He came in, I think, last summer, and we thought, what a lovely, just another visitor guy, because we love all of our visitors, right? But our front desk staff quickly picked up that Chris here was a former resident, and they called up to Anthony and said, somebody should follow this guy. So he very graciously allowed Anthony to follow him around and shared some of his stories and experiences, and came back again to share stories and experiences with us. So that's kind of how we started this relationship, and that's really what we're open to. We just recently did an oral history with Chris as well, and that's definitely something that we want to make sure that we record and have, again, for posterity. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Zavala.
Thank you.
All right, now the goal is to be very conversational here. Sometimes we get a little too formal. Maybe I should be more formal, so you tell me if I need to be. Otherwise, I just want to make sure that we will have an opportunity for everyone to ask questions. But really, Chris, just wanted to start off. Tell us a little bit about growing up and where you're from and what your childhood was like.
Well, I'm from Nampa, Idaho, and I've been there since 1940. My mother was Pueblo Indian, my dad was from Mexico, and my mother died when I was about 3 years old, and my grandpa and my dad raised all the kids, and I had a good family. I don't know why it turned out that way, but I had a good family. I grew up with a good family. Now, as far as prison is concerned, I came here, I don't know what year it was. I think it was the late 60s. And they got me for armed robbery. At the time, I was boxing, and I was making good money. And why I did what I did, I don't know why. I guess trying to show off or something, I don't know. But they got me for armed robbery. And the funny part about it was the person who caught me, I knew him.
So the officer that arrested you,
Yeah.
You knew? Okay.
I knew him, and but he was just doing his job. But anyway, I came here. When they were bringing me in the car, I was all chained up, and I was just looking out the windows and looking at the farms, and I thought, boy, oh boy, here I go. But when they brought me here, they put me in, we came through the front, and they put me in a little room, and they stripped me, give me a GI search, and then they spray you. And they brought my prison clothes and big boots. The prison clothes were stripes, and then they put me in fish tank. I don't know if you guys ever took a tour, but fish tank just right up here. And I had to spend 3 days there, and it was pretty bad there, because in the top they had...
We are going to discuss some adult themes tonight. I kind of know what's coming, so just want to prepare people for that as well, and we want Chris to be as open and honest as possible, so go ahead, Chris.
But anyway, we had a woman, a guy we used to call Ma Cunningham, and she got a little nasty with me that night, but then she asked me if I knew anybody here, and well, of course, I knew half of the people that were here, and my cousins were here. I had relatives, and after I told her that, no problems. That was it. But anyway, after the third day, they put me in a poorhouse, and way in the top, and they put me in there with two other fellows. It was an Indian and a white guy. The Indian I knew, and when just as I walked in, that white guy asked me, he says, do you play cards? And I said, yeah. He says, you want to play cards? I said, and then the Indian guy said, no, you don't. He doesn't want to play cards. But he kept it up, and the Indian boy told him, hey, he doesn't want to play cards, leave him alone. And the next day, he kicked him out. And so it was just me and him, and his nickname was Flash. And he, I found out later, he was one of the roughest guys in here. But he told me, he said, the reason I didn't want you to play cards because they were all marked. And but anyway, after that, you see it like in a fish tank, in fish tank we had buckets for toilets. So I didn't go to the bathroom for about 3 days until I got in the yard. But anyway, after that, they took us to 2 yard. And that's closed, isn't it?
It's part of the Idaho Botanical Gardens now, so it's open, but it's very much different than what your experience was.
But anyway, they took us over there, and the first thing they did, they put me in school, and I graduated, but they put me in the 2nd grade. And I thought that was crazy, but you couldn't tell them nothing, or they'd lock you up. But they put me in the 2nd grade, and then after that, some friends of mine got me in the tag plant. So I worked in the tag plant there in the office.
Making license plates?
Huh?
The tag plant making license plates?
Yeah. They made license plates, license for dogs, all kinds of license. And my job was to make sure every county got their plates. I had to keep records. But anyway, one time I remember this Indian fellow went back there. We went to the bathroom because everything's wide open. So he went to the bathroom, came back out, and then the Mexican guy went in there, and he left. And the Indian guy came over and he said, hey, Chris, did you see anybody go in the bathroom after I did? And I said, yeah, it was Blanco. And he said, oh, well, he took my watch, and he said he paid $10 for it. And I said, well, I don't know anything about that, but he's the one that went in there. Anyway, Blanco, he had him killed, and just for that watch.
So Ernesto Blanco?
Yeah.
Is that who you're referring to? And Ernesto is buried in our prison cemetery over here.
Yeah, and you could buy a killer for 25 cents, 50 cents in here. If anybody, huh?
Buy what?
A killer. Yeah, you could hire a killer for 25 cents or 50 cents, and of course, there were lifers, so they didn't care. And of course, you had to know them. But anyway, after that, we had to come through that little gate. I don't know if they've seen it. And they search you, see if you had anything. But what they do, they take in the other side of the fence and they'd strip you. They took everything off to make sure you didn't have knives or whatever. And they did that to me once, but.
So just randomly, they would select somebody coming from 2 yard over to the main yard?
Yeah. Plus, they used to make Squeaky and make sure you didn't
All right,
have
Chris,
any.
you got to tell us what is Squeaky?
Yeah, does anybody know what Squeaky is? Or?
We do because we spent the night here.
Some people got to make Squeaky here, believe it or not. So.
But anyway, we used to have Squeaky in here. Most of the guys had it.
So how would you make Squeaky?
You made it out of fruit. So you put fruit and yeast and I don't know what else. But they had it back then. Then we had guys, we'd send them down there to go test it to see if it was ready. And everybody had a little bottle you carried in your pocket. And, well, here's mine, go fill it up. And
So how would you hide it? How would you make sure that the guards or the bulls didn't get it?
just in your pocket. The guards knew. They knew, but they didn't care, I think. But one thing that was bad, a lot of guys would sniff glue. And that's pretty bad for you. I've seen guys, just blow their brains out. But anyway, we used to sit out here in the wall and drink our Squeaky, and then we come to the loafing room, which is back here. And they only had 2 TVs. And of course, the guards would turn them on for you, but you couldn't watch what you wanted to watch. You had to do what the guard said. And then back there, they had a guard with a shotgun. And Flash, my friend, one time they were playing cards, Jim Rummy. And he lost 10 cents. This other guy cheated him out of 10 cents. So he said, I'm kind of tired. I'll see you guys later. And he went around the around the back of his chair and got him with an ice pick. just for a dime, yeah.
And did he end up going to solitary? Did they catch him?
Nobody knew nothing. Everybody scattered, and of course the guards, hey, we don't know nothing.
And was that kind of the convict code?
Yeah. And of course he killed a guy, but nobody knew nothing, just for a dime. But I kind of think it wasn't just because of the dime. I kind of think it's because he made fun of that Indian boy, Flash. And just a lot of things happened that they didn't keep records around here that much. But I remember one time, this one fellow wanted to sell me a painting. It was about this big. And I asked him how much you want for it. He said $15. I said, well, let me think about it. And then he went to another friend of mine. I'll call him Frankie. And Frankie was here for murder. And he went to sell it to Frankie for $10. So Frankie invited him to the barber shop. And of course, the barber there he was like a brother to me. He was a hired killer. So they closed the door and they got that kid in there, and Frankie asked him, how come you wanted to sell it to my friend for 15 and me 10? That guy, I don't know what he did, but anyway, Frankie about killed him with an iron bar just for doing that. Because if you have a friend here, he's your friend, he's your brother. They take care of each other.
Now you, just kind of speaking of that, you talked about when you first arrived, an experience that you had with somebody maybe trying to show how tough they were.
Yeah, I went to Five House, like I said, and I was in the top tier. And the first morning when I walked out, a guy went and smacked me right in the mouth. And like I said, I used to be a boxer. I was boxing those days. And so I got on him, and I beat the tar out of him. And Flash asked him, what'd you do that for? He said, I was testing him out. He said, you tested the wrong guy out.
Well, but did things like those maybe potentially help? You mentioned Ma Cunningham, so we are talking about another male inmate, but you often referred to Ma as a woman. She would
Ma
solicit
Cunningham.
sexual acts, and did that sort of kind of showing your prowess? Did that maybe prevent some of that from happening?
Yeah, everybody knew her. Everybody knew Ma Cunningham. But she wouldn't bother. I don't know. That's the first time and last time she ever did that to me. Never again. And she wouldn't do it to the other guys. And the guys, the ones that were child molesters, they had them working here, but they had them segregated. I remember there was one guy, I think his name was Dickie. I don't know if some of you remember this, but he escaped one time and raped a little girl. And then he killed her. I think it was in Caldwell. But they brought him back, and he went to talk to my laundryman. My laundryman was my cousin, and they used to do your laundry for, I think it was $10 a month. They would do your laundry. I was talking to him, and then Dickie came over, and my cousin said, wait a minute, Chris, I'll be right back. And he brought a 2x4 and smacked him right in the head and split his head. And the guard was right there. He just turned around and walked away. He didn't care. But that's what happens.
Kind of that code even amongst the guards to turn their back when it involves someone like that.
But anyway, at that, like I said, like I was telling these people here, this prison is a complete different world, because you don't know unless you've been here. And then when you go out, boy, what a change.
Talk a little bit about that, about how it was to transition to life on the outside.
Well, you see what happened, I was here, and I did 5 extra years. And I called the captain. I told him, hey, well, when do I go to the parole board, or what do I do? And he looked up my number. He says, what's your number and your name? So I told him. And he went and checked at the office and ran back, and he said, golly, we're sorry, we're going to have a special meeting for you. And so they released me. But I had to do 5 extra years, and I didn't even know about it. But anyway, when I got out, the first thing I done was somebody's yard. I just rolled on the grass and smelling the leaves. Because over here, if you touch the grass, it'd shoot you. So that's the first thing I did, and I was very, very paranoid. I mean, paranoid. And I couldn't talk to nobody, or I didn't even go uptown. But a friend of mine had a job for me, and so I went to work. But we had to pile some wood. It kept coming down a belt, different sizes, and so I stopped the machine, and the boss went up there, and he said, who did this? I said, I did, because it was coming down too fast. And he said, well, next time don't do it, I do it. And I looked at him, and he was really pushy, and I don't know, I got scared. So I got a 2x4 and start knocking all these woods down. And I told him I'd quit, I want my money. He said, well, you don't get it until payday. And I said, no, I want it right now. And he said, no, so I was going to hit him with a 2x4. But he said, no, and he ran in there and got my money, and I left. And it's bad, being paranoid. And then I went home and I talked to my dad of what had happened, and so he gave me $200, and I went to Phoenix to stay with my brother, and I went back to school, and I was still paranoid there. I don't know, but there was the instructor, she was from New York, and she said, can I talk to you after our class? I said, sure. Went to the office, and she said, I noticed you're a loner. And I said, yeah. And she said, I know you just got out of prison. And she says, try to get involved with people and mingle with them, but I couldn't do it. But I tried it one time. This fellow went and asked me for him to go to a nightclub with a group. And I told him, well, let me think about it. And so I went with them that evening after work. I ordered a beer. It took me all night to drink that beer. But you know, that really, really helped, because I started talking to people little at a time. It took a while. But then I went to school there, I think for about 2 years. But anyway, I went to Oakland. They transferred me to Oakland. And I went to school there. After that, boy, I went uphill. I never looked back. Never came to prison again.
And you shared an experience about maybe a girl helping you get out of that funk a little bit?
Which one?
Oh, even better, Chris. just about socializing a bit more.
Well, there was a girl there. She kind of had, I don't know, something for me, and I just had to tell her, just leave me alone. I was paranoid, and I didn't want to bother her. So she kept following me around, and boy, it was scary. So I finally had to tell her, hey, just stay away from me, And she was a nice girl, nice-looking lady, but I just couldn't handle it. But later on, I started getting with it, and my dad had a heart attack here in Nampa, so I came to Nampa to take care of my dad. And I've been here ever since, but anyway, I met a girl at a grocery store. She was the cashier, but anyway, I met her and I dated her. We got married, and I've been happy ever since.
How many kids do you have, Chris?
I have 6, 4 boys and 2 girls.
All right, now here's the $1 million question. Never appropriate to ask, but I think people will just be amazed and astonished. How many years young are you?
How many what?
How many years young are you?
Next Saturday, I'll be 83.
And still sharp as a tack, right? Getting back a little bit more to your experiences here, can you walk us through just a typical day? What was just another boring day at the Idaho State Penitentiary?
Well, we went to work 5 days a week, in the evenings, like I said, we'd go out here and we'd talk and drink Squeaky or go in the loafing room or just to talk to people, you know, just other guys that you knew. Because they used to lock us up, I think, right after supper. In the mornings, they'd get us up. No, when they lock us up in the evenings, you had to put your hand on the bar so they could count them, see how many people were there. And one time I met a trustee, and they put us in the bottom cell when I was a trustee, and we went up, we was going to go work in the Carrots, but that morning we had good breakfast, and there's a little shack, I don't know if you guys ever seen it, up here in the little hill. The trustees could go up there and play ping pong or whatever. So I went up there, and then I went to that barn, and I went upstairs, and there's another guy with me, and I was looking at these boxes. They're real old papers from the 1800s. But I didn't look. I didn't have time because the guy that was down there, he said, "Chris, the guard's coming." So we took off, went back to that little shack. And anyway, they took us in a truck. They used to plant carrots at the golf course. I don't know if you guys ever seen it. They used to plant carrots there, and me, I'm afraid of rats. I'm really scared of them. I don't like them. And this one guy, he knew about it, and he got it in a shovel. "Here, Chris, look." And I told him, "Don't do that." And he kept doing it, so I smacked him in the head with my shovel, split his head, brought me back in. And I went to, they put me in Five House. Oh no, they brought me back in, and I went back to my cell, and I was putting on a tattoo. I still have it. And you know, there's hallways in the houses there. There's a hallway in the middle of your cells, and they can look through your mirrors. And these guards seen what I was doing, so they came around, they took me out, and they said, you know, that's committing suicide when you put a tattoo on. And the door's only about this big. And when I came out, I kind of brushed the guard. And so they took me to the cap shack, and he told the captain that I shoved him. And the captain looked at me and says, "You know, that's a death penalty right there." And I told him, "Well, I didn't shove him." And what helped me is the other guards stuck up for me. But they put me in Five House. And in Five House, I was there with one of my friends, and you could talk through the vents. And he said, "Hey, Chris, what are you going to do when they bring you your supper?" I said, "Well, I don't want it." He said, "What are you going to do with it?" "I'm going to throw it on the guard." He said, "No, you won't." So, could I mention his name?
Absolutely, go for it.
Anyway, Munch, he was a lieutenant, I think. He brought my tray, and I said, "Hey, Munch, come here." He says, "What do you want, Zavala?" And I threw my tray at him, got him all over. He says, "I'll be back." He took off and came back with two other guys, and they chained me up, and they had a shotgun back here, and they walked me clear from Five House, clear on there, and there's a yellow line. And if you step over the yellow line, they'll shoot you. And they kept telling me, "Get over the line, step over the line." I said, "I ain't that crazy." But they put me in the corner pocket. I don't know if you guys know where the corner pocket's at. And when they put you in there, you don't know where day or night is. And it's a cement floor, and they give you two blankets, one for your mattress and one to cover up. And it was in the winter. And I did 6 months there. And they have a little hole in the corner. I don't know if you noticed it, and it had a little spigot. And that was your drinking water and your toilet. And I did 6 months there, and boy, I was everything. I was Gene Autry, Roy Rogers. I danced, and I did everything just to keep my mind going.
Were you able to talk to the other inmates that were in
The
the
what?
corner? The other inmates that were in the corner
Yeah,
pocket
you could
with you?
talk to them, but one time, because we knew, see, they'd beat you. And we could hear the chains, the keys. And they said, "Get to your corners." So we'd get to our corners, and when the guards walk in, they can't see you because it's really super dark. And the first guard that came in, I smacked him one, and of course they beat you with rubber hoses. But one time, they came in and they said that Dickie, an Indian kid, was in another cell, that he committed suicide. You can't do that. They killed him. Because you can't commit suicide in there. And then when you came out of the door, if you fell, they'd beat you. And what happened to me, I fell, but I had just on one hand, so I didn't get beat. Then they walk you back around again.
Did you find after that did they treat you any differently? Was it kind of the same? Was there any sort of respect, or maybe it was worse? What was your experience after that?
Well, the guys were really neat. Of course, they're your friends. You know, I knew a lot of them. They were all from Nampa, and well, some of them. But anyway, yeah, I knew a lot of them. And yeah, they treated me pretty good. As long as you ain't rat, you know.
Right.
Because they had a rat here one time on 2 house, and I think they were 4 stories up. Of course, nobody said nothing. They all went up there and they grabbed him and threw him over. And of course, when he hit the cement, it killed him. And that's for being a rat. But
and do you know what he snitched about, or?
No, I didn't. Never found out. And I remember another time. You see, Alfonso, like I told you, we called him my brother because he grew up with us. He was a barber, and he was a hired killer for the mafia. And he's the only guy that I seen didn't wear stripes. He had a white shirt, real nice slacks. How did he do that? I don't know.
Well, and you talked about previously when we've talked that you kind of had your own clique, right? Was it by ethnic groups or different things? Like who sort of associated?
We had cliques, you know. There weren't gangs, just cliques, you know. And like the Indians would mingle with the Mexicans and so on, and also some white people. I have a lot of friends that are white. In fact, they're still my friends. But black people, let me see, we had 3 of them. We only had 3 here. And 2 of them killed a state patrolman. I think it was in Pocatello, somewhere over there. And they gave them, I think it was 75 years. You know, in those days it was funny because if they give you life for murder, you could get out in 10 years. And now you can't. And so people would say, I'd rather get life than 75 years. Because 75 years you had to do it. So it was really weird.
Well, and that had a little bit to do with the mix-up with your like minimum sentences and those things, right? With how they kind of lost you for 5 years.
I don't know what happened. They must have missed my name or something. I don't know, because we came back here later in years to see our records, And there was me, Tommy. You remember Tommy? And there's 4 or 5 of us. We were all here. And we checked our records, and my name was gone. It wasn't there. And I told him, well, what happened to me? And that lady said, well, you wasn't here. And one of the guys said, the heck if he wasn't, he was there when I was there.
And we can verify, actually, that the records are at the Idaho State Archives, which is a part of the Idaho State Historical Society, and yours is not a part of those. We're still digging and trying to figure out why that is, but I can 100% verify that.
They deleted it. We even called Washington, D.C., my wife did, and no record. So, it came out good, and I could see it came out good for me, but at that time it wasn't.
Right. You'd have those 5 years back, right?
So actually, I don't have a record that I was in prison. And I thought that was really something, but I remember everything. I remember the riots. We had a riot here. Yeah,
talk a little bit about some of those disturbances. And I can verify some of those years were 1966, 1967, because one was more nonviolent than the other one.
Yeah, that one, we had clear on the yard, there was National Guards, and we all had our wet towels, just in case they threw gas there, and we took over completely. And that was because of our food. We was eating one time fish, and we found worms in it, and that did it. But after that, the captain, rather, the warden, I think it was Clapp, he came in and talked to us, and so we went back. We straightened everything out, our mattresses and everything, because, I mean, it was chaos. But they start feeding us 6 times a day. We had 2 meals for breakfast, 2 for lunch, and 2 for supper. And I thought that was pretty good, you know, because at first, you know, before they did that, you had to eat real fast. And then you couldn't talk to nobody or look at anybody. You just ate, and that was it. And that's what happened to me, too. You know, when I got out, I used to eat really fast. And then I put my fork and my knife together, and they would, I remember my brothers just they wouldn't say nothing, but they would kind of looked at me kind of funny, you know. But I would eat fast, and you had to.
Just those little things.
Yeah. And anyway, I remember that, but the riot, it was completely different. And that's when they stabbed, I remember who it was. Anyway, they stabbed him out here. He was in line. And he was in about 2 guys in front of me. And the guy walked beside me, and he just went, and of course I didn't say nothing, and stabbed him right in the back with a dagger, homemade dagger. And that guy just looked at me, kept saying, "Help me," and I just kept going. Because if you said anything, they'd get you, you know.
You mentioned to me about doing your time, making sure that you were doing, you know.
Oh yeah, you do your own time instead of, like, say if you commit a crime, do your time. Don't get involved with anybody else, because if you do, you're asking for trouble, you know, and you don't want to do that. And now, you know, I was going to mention also, the prisons that they have now are completely different. You can have a TV, a radio, van, anything you need. And I think a lot of people, that's the reason they always go back. They don't care. Look what they've got. And in those days, man, it was completely different. And nowadays, you see what the majority of the people that are in prison is because of drugs. And they're young kids, young people. And my wife and I was talking about that, and I told her, you know, it's all a money thing. Because the more people you have there, the more money they get. So I thought, you know, why not get that money and make a rehab center or something to help these people that are on drugs? We wouldn't have these prisons. But I think it's a money thing, I really do. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my thinking.
And he definitely has opinion, and that is we honor that, because this is about, you know, your memory and your truth, and we certainly appreciate that. One last thing before I open it up to questions for everyone else. What do you think everyone should know or take away from your experiences? What do you want people to know most about your experiences here?
I think most of all, the parents. The parents should pay more attention to their kids. As far as I'm concerned, I think a spanking is not going to kill a kid, but it's against the law. You can't spank them. And I did mine, and I've got good kids, you know. And but you know, a kid, if you spank him and show him, hey, responsibilities, nowadays you tell a kid to do something, or I'm going to call the Department of Health and Welfare, and so on and so on. You know, that parent should say, hey, you listen to me and you do what I tell you to do, or I'm going to spank you. And, you know, But then there's a lot of parents that don't give a darn. A lot of them. I've seen them. And then there's kids. If you go to prison, the first time you go to prison, see, I knew this one guy that was here. He was a bank robber. And I asked him one time, how come you rob banks? And he said, you know, Chris, it's the excitement. He said, I don't shoot nobody, I don't hurt nobody, but it's really exciting. And he kept robbing banks, and look where he ended up. I know another one, we called him Alfie. He's the one that stabbed the guard out here, and he was the same way, but when he stabbed that guard, they gave him 25 years. And he's out now, but he's on parole for life. So it's no good, you know, and to me, all of this, I think, is when they're kids, parents take care of them. Teach them lessons, teach them responsibilities, teach them to work. A lot of the kids don't work. Here they are with their little telephones or whatever, you know, and man, that's bad, I think.
All right, it starts at home then, right?
Yeah, it starts at home, yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to take this opportunity. I will come around with the microphone, if you don't mind, Chris, if you're doing good. All right.
What was the one thing? Oh, you don't need a microphone for me. What was the one thing that you can think of when you were in this prison that helped you? What was the one thing basic thing that you did to prevent from getting killed in this place? The one thing.
The one thing that what?
The one thing that kept you from getting killed with all the garbage that went on in this place.
That get killed?
What kept you from getting killed? You must have been a wise old codger, or you'd have been killed by somebody, because you had, from your story, you didn't pussyfoot around, but they didn't kill you.
I had a lot of friends here.
Oh,
a lot of friends. And also, you know, if you don't ask for trouble, you ain't going to get in trouble. They ain't going to go after you. But if you go out there and you act like you're a Superman or whatever, yep, watch out. I seen a guy get killed with a trash can, the lid of a trash can. Yeah, I'd say so too.
How old was your wife?
62.
Oh, all right.
I have a wonderful family.
So what was your sentence and how much time did you end up doing?
I ended up doing a little over 6 years.
And so you thought you were going to do a year and ended up doing 6?
Yeah, you see, in those days, what they call a first-timer, it depends on what you've done, but a first-timer, you could get out in 11 months. Well, they forgot me somehow, so I did 5 extra years.
So what was the actual sentence?
My actual sentence was, I think it was 10 years. Pretty close to 10 years, somewhere around there.
And what was your number?
11730.
And what we're up to about 130,000 now?
That's about right. And with current correctional numbers, absolutely. Anybody else?
What did Munch do to warrant you throwing your lunch tray at him?
All right, he's asking about Joseph Munch, the captain of the yard, and why did you throw your lunch on him?
Oh, because I was mad. I was mad because I was at Five House. That was Mexican security. Yeah. You see, Mexican security, you couldn't talk to nobody. Of course we did, but you couldn't. And then to take a shower, they gave you 5 minutes, and there's a yellow line, and there's a guard up here with a shotgun. If you cross that line, they'd shoot you. And they only give you 5 minutes to take a shower. And it was kind of bad. And some guys, what they would do, some of our friends, they'd get a balloon and put a bunch of tobacco in it and little matches and to stick it up the rectum. And they'd go do something wrong so they could go to Five House. And when they went there, they took out the balloon and everybody had cigarettes.
No, that's a good friend.
Yeah, so,
Anybody else? Yeah, let me come around here.
I recall in the tour we had, there was a cell in one certain corner for a barber, and I was wondering if the barber that you make reference to, have I got the story right? Was he the guy in the front corner? I remember a story here about the barber having special privileges and such. He had the best cell in the house or something like that.
No.
Wasn't the same guy or the same story?
Yeah, you see, there was a barber, the one I told you that was the killer from the mafia. He's a good friend of mine. Anyway, he called me. Yeah, he called me over one time and he said, "I know you like to read a lot." And I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Take this book and go to the bleachers for the play baseball and read it." So there was me, Frankie, and Joe. We went up there, and every page there was marijuana. So how did they get that in?
You tell us.
So there was marijuana in those days in here. And then that same guy, you see, we had tokens for money. And this guy here, he, I don't know how he got it, but he got the little machine and he started making money. And all his friends had money. Everybody, we all had money. But then the guards start realizing, hey, where's these guys getting all that money? So they found out what was going on, so they changed it. They changed the money.
All right, you got to tell us, what about prison pets? Were there any prison pets here?
Oh, yeah, so Dennis. We had a cat named Dennis that was everybody's pet, even the guards, everybody's pet. And that cat had it made. He'd sleep anywhere he wanted to or eat with anybody, or he was a neat little cat. And he's buried here, huh?
He is absolutely just right behind this building.
Yeah.
We actually have a marker if anybody wants to go look. So.
Yeah, Dennis the cat. He was a neat cat, though. He was here for years.
If the sign's right on it, 16, so.
So at one point you mentioned that you had attained trustee status and then you did something and lost that status. Did you ever regain trustee status or did you maintain as just a regular prisoner?
You know, I can't hear you with the mic.
Okay, so at one point you said you were a trustee.
Oh, yeah.
How long and then you lost that privilege? I know you said, and I can't remember having lost the privilege, but did you ever get back to trustee
No.
status?
Never did. No.
So what did you end up doing professionally after you left here? Did your experiences here help you once you were on your career path?
I became a psychiatric technician, and I did some boxing, professional boxing. Yeah.
So did any of your experiences help you with either of those, boxing and or being a psychiatric tech?
Psychiatry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What weight did you weigh box at? How much did you weigh when you were boxing?
I was a lightweight.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like when you were a young man, you had kind of a quick temper, got mad easily.
I would say not a quick temper. Something that I would say something just to show off. To say, hey, look what I did, man. You know, something like that. Something stupid.
And that seemed to get you into trouble sometimes.
Yes.
How did you get control over that? How did you change?
I think it was at work. Yeah, because, you know, when I got out of here, I was really, really super paranoid. I couldn't even look at people. But I think work helped me a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I've got two quick questions. But first of all, thanks for coming in.
Oh,
It
you
has to
bet.
take a
Thank
lot
you.
of courage to come in here. So I want to talk about, did you, on your crime that you were charged, did you actually go to a trial and a jury?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, the judge knew my family, my dad, and he couldn't understand why I did it.
Okay. The judge?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you went, and so it was in front of a jury and,
No.
Okay.
Just a judge.
okay. And was that over in Canyon County then?
Yes, Caldwell.
In Caldwell? Okay.
It was the old building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then describe a little bit how you feel in coming back in the walls. Is it very tough? I mean,
Well,
for you
my
to
kids at first wanted to see it, so I told them, okay, I'd bring you down. And when I did, it just brought back a lot of memories.
right.
Some that I didn't want to think about, but you can't help it.
Right.
But you get over it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great you come in and share the history, and it's good as Idahoans to understand the history, and so I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah,
It takes a
well,
lot of
thank you.
courage, so thank you.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you guys know, on Fish Tank, underneath a dungeon, and they had a dungeon down there. Yeah.
So we have to ask. Officially, it wasn't being used, but what does your record say?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they didn't use it then, because they used to tie you up. Well, you can imagine what they did here in the corner park in Siberia. Can you imagine the dungeon?
But it was in your time. You don't recall anybody being placed in there?
No.
Well, and I do want to thank you both for that extra plug about historic places and that sense of place, because coming here brings back those memories, and that's why these places,
Yeah.
I would argue, and lobby are important. So looks like
I'm
we
sure
have another
there's a lot of
question.
things I forgot about too, so it's.
Excuse me. I'm curious what the general population thought of the trustees.
I think it was 900.
He was saying, what did the general population think of the trustees? So what was their reaction to a trustee? Were they trusted by the general population or just the guards?
No, just the guards. The trustees were mostly younger kids. They had kids in here, young kids, and which was a mistake. Because as soon as you walked out of a fish tank, there were a girl. They'd be waiting for them. The young kids. I don't care what they did or whatever, you can't win. And of course the guards know about it, but what can they do? It's terrible. And I'm sure the laws have changed now. I don't know, but I remember. Golly, young kids, coming in here. I used to feel so sorry for them. But they can't, you have, let's say 5 or 6 people out here with shanks. Hey, you're my little girl. What are you going to do? But that's life. That's why I always say, kids, watch yourself. Parents, raise up your kids right, darn. Don't let them get in trouble. Of course, we all get in trouble once in a while, but hey, do the right thing. Raise them up right, And I know I shouldn't say it, but I think spanking is a good thing. I really do.
We definitely know your opinion on that one. That's great. Well, I think, Chris, are you able to stick around maybe just a few more minutes in case anybody
sure,
had a few
sure.
other questions?
bet.
But I think that concludes our discussion. Thank you all so much for being such an engaging audience. It's kind of nice when it's small and intimate. This is much better than Halloween when I don't get to talk to anybody. We will definitely want you to, if there's particular topics or, if you have contacts or know people, please put your ideas and information in the back. JC is very Vanna White right now, showing you where to put it. We do ask that you please, for the love of God, eat the remaining food and snacks. Otherwise, we take it home, and we already had the volunteer recognition event last night, and we took food home from that. So, again, thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. A nice round of applause.